Every episode of No Offsides podcast is brought to you by Champion Hockey. Be a champion. What's up, everybody? This episode is also brought to you by the US Roller Cup, a revolution in roller. Looking for your next tournament? Check out the US Roller Cup in Irvine, California from June 14th to the 16th, 2024. With divisions from club all the way up to men's and women's pro. Check out USRC in Irvine, California, June 14th through 16th, 2024. Join the revolution.
No offside.
Let's go.
Welcome back for another episode of No Offsides, where we really talk roller hockey. I'm Dan Dean here with my partner Justin Wood. Our special guest today is the athlete's choice for post-game muscle and joint pain. He's also one of the co-owners of R&R Production. Welcome, Steven Reyes. How you doing, man?
Doing good, Dan. Thank you for the introduction. Really appreciate being on the show.
Heck yeah, man. We're glad to have you.
Yeah, I mean, we're glad to have you. We not only see Biscuit Balm all over on Instagram, especially attached to several, I want to say a decent amount of roller hockey teams, especially when they post their rosters and stuff like that. But, we're seeing a lot of R&R production lately as well. So we want to have you on because we want to talk about both of these entities.
Yeah, so it's been a long journey really for me. And one of the main reasons why you've been seeing more, you guys are kind of part of that reason, is because, you guys started your podcast and I really dug that, as I was talking to Justin on the other day, like, I feel like there can't be enough podcasts around the country to really try to grow awareness, right? Like there's plenty to go around. So when you guys did it, I was like, why, what am I waiting for? Because I've been wanting to do it for the past 2 years. And as soon as I saw you guys do it, I was like, okay, I need to do it too. So thank you for giving me that push.
Yeah.
Heck
well,
yeah.
I mean, it's just, it's great to hear that, one, we're creating competitors. Well, competitors, yes and no. I mean, we're covering different stuff, right? But also, we're kind of inspiring you to kind of do things that you've wanted to do originally. So, that makes me feel good. At least when they say like who inspires you. I know when you say it, our names are going to come up now, so it's going to be good.
Yeah, it's on the record now, right? So like
Yeah,
it's on the record. You guys
Appreciate
inspired
that.
Hockey Night Insider. So like I said, we're it's a small tight community, as Justin was saying, and you
Yeah.
know, like I said, I think if we all just kind of combine our forces and really try to reach for a certain goal, I think we can get there a lot quicker than trying to individually do it.
Yeah.
Great. Because we're all we want to do is, a lot of us, especially, we just want to talk roller and just kind of like show people what the roller community is and what it's all about. And so
I agree.
yeah, and but and so like, and that's where people outside the community that maybe like roller hockey but don't play, that maybe listen, they athletes use Biscuit Balm, and teams. Like I said, I'm seeing more and more teams affiliated with it, and so it could be great just for anyone, really. I mean, because I'm curious, right? Because I know Justin may have gotten the lowdown on it, but like, just curious on like why Biscuit Balm was started.
So my wife and I, we always go through this routine at night where she has pain because she has chronic pain and she needs surgery realistically, but spinal surgery, it's a serious thing. So we're really trying to like do our due diligence to where to get it done and all that. So, but meanwhile, going through that, she was popping these ibuprofen pills, right? And I did some research on ibuprofen, and they said that if you take them for a long, consistent period of time, it can cause stomach bleeding. So I started looking into CBD, an alternative like solution for her not to take those pills, because yes, it was taking down the inflammation and helping her, relieve her pain. But then we're adding another problem on top of it on the long run. So I was looking. I had a friend that was in the CBD game, and I asked him if he would help me manufacture a rubbing balm, right? So I did, and the puck idea came from my wife. She was like, "Well, since the jar is going to be looking like a puck, why don't you call it Biscuit Balm?" And I was like,
Yeah.
Oh my God, why didn't I even think of that, right? Like it looks like, and me being the hockey player, I didn't come up with it. So that's maybe one too many pucks to the head or whatever. But so we came up with that. And then I saw a generic logo of a puck that had a face on it. You guys have probably seen it around. It's a generic one. There's some teams that may use it on a jersey or not. But I sent it to an artist to redraw it, and he came up with a little more friendlier, more diverse look to it, more playful look to it. And Biscuit Balm was born.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, you don't want to go into just fixing like day to day a problem and then just creating an even bigger one, right? So, I'm curious because I may have to try this. I've been actually curious on, I guess, where can you acquire such product?
So I ended up creating an LLC, but here in California, it's very expensive to own a business, and it was costing me $700 just to re-up my business with the LLC. So I shut it down for a little bit. I'm going to relocate the company out of state so I can kind of get my overhead down a little bit and really focus on more, product development and sponsorship to be more of a product sponsor for more teams. So right now it's all DMs through Instagram or Facebook is where you can reach us.
Okay, that's good to know.
And so if you can verify that you're a hockey player, you automatically get 15% off.
Oh,
was that 50?
15.
Oh, 15. I was gonna say I definitely heard that one wrong.
yeah. I was like, dude, you're being too nice.
Yeah, 15% right off the bat. Because I really try to give back a little bit on anything that I do since we are making some money, and most of it goes back into the product. But at the same time, I know how these fees are with tournaments now and rinks. Like the prices are starting to go up, and equipment as well. So every little bit helps towards your hockey program. So I try to give back a little bit if I can.
That's awesome.
I gotta say, I do enjoy just kind of how you on like Instagram, especially how you use the tiles for each post, right? And it's connecting it and making it one big image. And so it looks like a 3x3 section here for each whether it's deal or, a holiday or Black Friday, right? Thanksgiving. And so it is very appealing when you go onto your Instagram. And I think
aesthetically.
Aesthetically, I made it directed towards hockey players just because I had the most influence in that section. But like you said, Dan, it's for everyone. Like even old people, like it helps with arthritis too. So if you go look up in CBD, like it has all these great benefits to it. So that's why I decided to put it in a rubbing balm, because just like it reminded me like back in the day when you would go into an ice hockey rink and you go in the locker room, you smell that nasty Bengay smell on the old guys, right? So I wanted to add like a little mint flavor to it, because my wife used to always complain about the smell that us hockey players kind of have, right? Yeah. And it's one of those things, like the worse you smell it, like you're a better player in a sense, right? So I wanted to kind of change that, and my wife made a comment when we went out to towards tournament and we were filming the women. She was like, my God, the women smell so much better than the men. And I was like, yeah, we got to kind of do something about that,
Yeah. And I'm going through here the testimonials, right? You got people saying, I'm assuming it looks like goalie, they throw it on their knees. I got people here that are saying like, helped with a couple muscle pulls. Someone has another knee problem that they've put it on, and in their lower back, right? So it's like, you have people that are in the game that are just praising your product, right? What separates it from other products?
Well, I think what I try to go, a lot of products, they're similar, right? And some of them have different attributes. So I really focused on things that would be, first of all, organic. So, and a lot of players, when they're trying to go to school, college and stuff, they get drug tested or whatever too. So I wanted to make sure that it didn't have that THC aspect of it. So that's why I went with CBD. Because there is stuff that's called full spectrum that have the THC aspect of it, which is, has more attributes to it. But unfortunately, it's still kind of taboo to use it at a professional level. So that's why I came up with the CBD that didn't have that. So then that way I can kind of fulfill everyone's need and not get them in a situation where, like, if you get drug tested, it's going to pop up and then you get busted. So that's I think, one of the things that when it comes to the CBD product aspect of it, it has 0 THC in it. Right, it's all CBD, and so you won't get in trouble, and you'll be able to use it.
Nice.
Yeah,
so what consistency does it start at? Is it kind of thick, or is it hard, and you gotta wear it in, or how does it work?
So it's not too soft. It kind of has like I would say it's like a mid texture. The more you rub it in, obviously it gets diluted and it gets softer. So what I try to tell people is like, don't pile it on, right? Like you would like Bengay, where you're just scooping a big old, handful and throwing it on your body and you're like lathering yourself in it. No, just like try a little bit, right? And if you feel like the pain's going away, okay, then cool. Because just like anything, you build a tolerance, right?
Yeah.
So if you start applying too much too soon early, all of a sudden, like the 500 milligram is not really doing you any good. You're gonna have to move up to the 1,000 milligram. And then so on and so forth. The 1,000 one's not really doing the job. Now you move up to the 3,000 milligram. So I always try to tell people, like, if you're under 30, use the 500 milligram. If you're over like 35, 40, and you want to go over the 1,000 to 3,000 milligram, because as you get older, obviously, you acquire, injuries a lot easier, and it takes you a lot longer to kind of warm up your muscles and things like that. So Biscuit Balm can kind of help in that area.
All right. And like, say like we had some on us and we're at a tournament, Dan pulls his hamstrings. Do you think he should apply it or I should apply it?
I think you should apply it, because you're going to apply it with love, right?
Thank you. Dan was like, what the fuck's happening?
I was so confused for a second. And then I was like, oh, I know where this is going. Okay.
It's funny that you say that, though, because me and my wife were kind of thinking about like how to campaign this at a rink in that real scenario. And I was like, what if we had like a Biscuit Balm girl that as soon as someone got hurt, she would run to the bench or whatever and like apply it. Like, I'm just thinking of gimmicks, right? And how to make it like fun and interesting in a sense. And then the other thing too is thinking like put up a canopy and then have an actual real masseuse or a chiropractor that can apply it, right?
Yeah.
And the reason I would do that is to kind of bring some outside sponsorship into the sport, right? Because I think that's what's really needed. So I'm always thinking, I'm like, okay, how do we make this bigger, and how do I always include like how to develop more new introductions to the sport. So like, let's just say we had the chiropractor there. Someone might go because there's a promo flyer that person put out, like, oh, if you come to the rink where we're having a tournament, it's a 30% off, chiropractic, consultation. And then all of a sudden the parent had a kid, and the kid's like, what's this? Like hockey? Like, oh, cool. And all of a sudden we just introduced someone that probably would have never seen hockey by doing that.
Yeah.
I think, that actually seems like a really good idea. And immediately once you said like, hey, let's pair it with like a chiropractor or a masseuse, I instantly went to Justin. You can probably confirm this. Wish Cup, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking.
And so because
he's gonna have masseuses.
Yeah, and so like pair it with with what, because they have last year when we went, they had tents all over the place, right? And at one point on the Sunday on playoff Sunday, they had like IV tent, and it was like, holy crap, never seen that. Like never seen them actually come out and do like a mobile. But like when you're talking here, I'm like, how difficult would it be for someone to come out with a masseuse table, and then you're one, getting a massage, and two, marketing your product?
Absolutely, it's a win-win for both of us.
Yeah,
and for the players.
Yeah, definitely talk to Colby, because he said he was thinking about having masseuses.
Yeah, if you can connect me, yeah, we'll do that.
Absolutely.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is what I love about your show. You see how we just connected a dot?
Yeah.
Like this is what it's about.
It's all about bringing the community even closer, man.
Well, speaking of that, do you care, Dan, if we get into R&R?
I was going to segue into that.
Because you're taking your skills from all across the spectrum, but applying it to hockey in a couple different ways. I guess we should just jump right into that too. A big production you're doing is Hockey Night Insider, correct? When you guys are doing this and you get to watch your baby form, like after all this work, how rewarding is that for you?
It's rewarding, but at the same time, it's like, it's my baby, and I know that eventually it's gonna, become an adult, and slowly, like, the show's not your baby anymore, right? Like, it becomes the community's show, right? So like at the beginning, I always enjoyed the beginnings of it, because it's like, okay, I nurtured it, I brought it out, you know what I mean? It's your baby, like you're saying, but after it gets seasoned, you're listening to the community of what they want to hear, right? Because you start getting a viewership, and then it evolves into something bigger than what you expected. And I think that's what I'm more excited about. Like, yes, it's rewarding to put it out, but I think I'm more excited to see what it's going to become and how it's going to help the community.
Yeah. Because we were talking earlier and you said, it started off like, we're just going to focus on SoCal. And then you were like, why am I pigeonholing myself? It's a big world out there. Talk about how it kind of got started, and your hosts, and how you came about grabbing them and bringing them in.
Yeah. So, this idea was, in my head 2 years ago, and it was mostly to the fact because of COVID and all that jazz that was happening. And that was one of the main reasons why I took my production passion and combined it with hockey, because there was a lot of, dead air and dead time that I, didn't have anything to do. So I said, this would be the perfect time to kind of combine both of my passions. I've never done it for hockey. So, the show came up. It took me a couple of years to really get it off the ground from when I first, thought of it. I had a couple conversations with other, people in the industry. I'm not going to say any names, but it didn't end up happening with them at that point. And I was kind of like, oh man, that sucks. I thought it was going to be an easy transition. So I kind of just put it on the back burner. And then I started, doing a lot of marketing for Black Biscuit. They kind of got me back into the roller world and filming at large tournaments and things like that. And then as you get to know people, you start, asking questions on like, oh, well, what do you want to see and this and that. And, before you know it, you guys popped up. And I was like, oh my God, this is kind of like what people were talking about. Like we need, more podcasts. There's podcasts for all these things. How come there's not some for roller hockey? And so then you guys popped up, and then that really kicked me in the butt. Like, okay, I need to get on this. So I started developing the show and the background on how it was going to look. I had talked to Parker, who's a local goalie out here that plays for the Terrapins. He was really interested in doing it and was like, yeah, dude, like anything you want, Steve. Like I'm all about growing the game. So we got that off the ground, and then Nick Gismondi was interested, and that kind of like was like incredible to have Gismondi on the show. Somebody that works for the NHL Network, and he's been at Narch, announcing and all that jazz. So he really took it to the next level that I couldn't take it. I'm not one to be in front of the camera. I like to be behind the scenes. So and I don't know everything about hockey. I don't try to pretend that I do. But I like to work with people that are good in what they do. And Nick Gismondi couldn't be any better person to put in front of a camera, for me. Yeah. So we launched it, and we got some great reviews. The first episode was pretty amazing. We had Jake Kopensky from the US Roller Cup, which was really cool. I love what he's doing. And we had Ethan on there, and then we had Dan, who does the Elite Draft League out here. And the rest is history, boys. Like, here we are. You guys have your show. I have my show. And like I was telling, Justin here, I was like, well, we got to kind of just figure out how we can collaborate and really kind of steer the community in the direction that we need to kind of try to, grow it and bring in some outside sponsorship.
Yeah. That was something that I liked that we were talking about before, was the necessity of actually bringing in sponsors that haven't classically been a part of roller.
Yeah, and you know what? I learned something very unique, and like I said, we're not reinventing the wheel again, but like in 2021, I think it was 2021, no, 2022, I went out to Hockey Day in Minnesota with Black Biscuit, and they had a goal to like raise a certain amount of money, like I think it was like $2 million or something like that, and they ended up raising over like $3 million, right? Yeah. But besides them raising the money and how they did all that, is that it's a hockey town. Like, it was just incredible to hear that all the kids that played there, first of all, didn't have to pay for ice time, and they didn't have to pay for their uniforms. This was all paid by sponsors throughout the cities. And I think that's the one big disconnect that roller hockey has, is the local sponsorship around the facilities. Like, you're not really utilizing the fact that you have hundreds of kids that are playing in your facility, that eventually someday they're going to become 18 and they're going to become a client for one of these local businesses. So why not try to get an early adoption of them by, getting into promoting through roller hockey? And I think like what you guys do with the live streaming of games and this show, I think we can help connect those dots for those rinks, because they don't have the tools that we have, right? So like they kind of need you and they need me to kind of make that happen for them. But it's got to be a collaboration where it's like, okay, here's a list of all the businesses around our area, and here are all our existing sponsors that we work with now. Let's see how we can get them into the broadcast and start setting the example. Because once a few of them jump in, then the rest of the competitors are looking at it and going, okay, well, we better get on it because Johnny's Grill just got, they're promoting there. So it's one of those things, right? Like, nobody ever wants to be the first guy that puts money and sponsors a program. But, it's one of those things where, like, as soon as you get the first couple ones, then it starts becoming a little easier.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And, like, it's definitely easier when you attach, like, some sort of youth behind it, right, for sponsors. And it gets a little more difficult when you start stretching it towards, like, adults and stuff like that. But, having, it starts with production, right? It starts with having a good product that people are going to watch, and then you start bringing in sponsors from the area, and then it's like, okay, this is working, right? It's kind of something similar we do with our league, right, Justin? Is like we pull in local businesses to sponsor every team. So every skater on the rink is a skating billboard.
It's amazing. That's smart.
Yeah. So, and it's not much to do it. And so it's like, hey, you get this for an entire year. Your team name is your logo is right there on the crest. And on our website, it's, whatever your business is. And, and also we try and encourage our members to like, hey, go to this business. Like,
yeah,
and a lot of businesses have been with us in our league for that long that people actually, and like, they're like, yeah, absolutely. We love your community. And I just feel like there's just not a lot of businesses that know about the roller community and how close knit they are. Right. So it's like, when we go to tournaments, we have specific spots we like to go eat. And it's like, hey, we can push so many people to you because it's like everyone asks us, hey, where do we eat when we go here? Go to this bar, Wings and Tots, like, cold beer, right?
Are you saying next time we go to Snellville that we should just get a team that's Dylan's and get everybody to go to Dylan's Bar and Grill?
I mean, why not, right? I mean, it's between that or, be like, hey, like, if we're going to throw up some streaming, like, why don't you sponsor? We push everyone to your business. Like, why not? Like, hey, if you're in Atlanta, go here.
I agree 100%. And see, in that restaurant, it's like the main key to start that process, because you guys can take two teams and take them in there and they pretty much make their money back in a couple seatings, right? And so, like, and the other thing too that I learned at Hockey Day Minnesota is that they had a VIP section for the sponsors where they invited them out to see the event and be part of the event. I think that's one little thing that we're missing in the roller world. Like, okay, if we have these sponsors, we need to get them out to the rink so they can interact, right? Yeah. And then they'll feel the love from the community, because they'll be like, oh, that's Bob from the grill. Like, oh, thank you, the kids, right? Like, they're like, oh yeah, thank you for the jerseys, and we love your buffalo wings or whatever. Like, that goes a long way, right? And so it's kind of an old school tactic, right? Like that, where you would like send gifts to your people you do business with, right? You kind of know what they like or whatever. You'll send them some NBA tickets or whatever. We got to kind of do the same thing for roller. Like, invite our sponsors out, get to know them, know what they like, and maybe cater to them a little bit as a thank you. Yeah. So we just kind of need to move in that direction where it just becomes a festival almost of hockey.
Agreed.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it also comes down to the unity of our major tournaments, right? And it's like, it doesn't work as well if we stay separate and are like competing against each other for like our big three, right? If we can unite and come up with something, it's stronger, and you can have potentially the floating sponsors for every tournament.
Right. No, I agree. Like, I have this conversation with a lot of people already where, like, what does it mean to be a champion from the top three, those tournaments? If you win one and then you lose the other, well, who's the real champion? Like, to me, like, when other organizations look at roller hockey, especially ice hockey, there's not a defined champion per se, right? So to me, that's kind of still part of the problem. Like, who's really the real champion, and what does it mean? Okay, so you won it at Narch. Now what? Are you the one that gets to go represent, the United States, and then goes to Europe to go try to win a cup and bring it back, and then have them to try to come over here and take the cup back or something like that? Yeah. So like, I think the major problem is that there's no kind of like sanction or any kind of round table where they're all sitting down and really figuring it out collectively. Like, okay, we know we're competitors, but at the same time, we have a responsibility to grow the game and help these rinks that, to create more teams, so there's more pie. Because or else, if we're fighting for the same pie, the slices are going to get less and less, and there's not going to be any slices left. Yeah. So I think if I think shows like this one and the one that I have, we can have those kind of real talks and conversations to maybe, steer it in that direction. Because I mean, if we did have like an ultimate, like the 3 tournaments be like, okay, let's put a superpower team together and send it to Europe.
Yeah.
Pick from all the pros and put a solid team in all the divisions,
Yeah.
and then go out and grab all the cups from everywhere else. And then we force them to come to our tournaments and try to get cups.
Yep. We
Yeah.
talked to Dom Brown. He does Wheel Hub Asia. And he said the way that they do their national team, if I'm correct, Dan, wasn't it that they had their own kind of like club competition, and then whoever won that was the team that went to the nationals?
Yeah, it was that's the team that represented at the Worlds competition.
Oh, yeah, Worlds.
And so they had their different areas, for the lack of a better word, because I'm forgetting what he said. But yeah, they have their different teams from different areas. They all compete against each other, and then the team that comes out on top now represents their country.
Right. Yeah, and like I was telling Justin, there's so much stuff that's already been done with the ice hockey platform that we don't need to reinvent it. We just need to apply it to roller hockey. It's all there. Like I used to play ice, and when I got scouted to represent Team California, there were scouts that kind of ranked players and saw all the teams, and then you got an invite, like, come try out, right? We could do the same thing. I just don't understand why we don't. And I think if we kind of just really got ourselves really organized to where we can start getting a little bit of respect from the ice world, we can really start bridging that gap from ice to roller.
Yeah. I mean, it used to be that there used to be a tryout for Worlds and stuff like that, and now it's just a committee picks players that submit their application, right? And so there's kind of like and I forget who said it. It might have been Eton. I think Justin Eton said like he misses competing for a spot.
Yeah.
And so like he's like, because he knew like if I'm going out there to compete, I'm competing against the image of what that player looks like against me or on my same team. Whereas and I get it, because like now you just submit a paper or an email or something like that, and it's like, this is my name, this is who I play for, right? And it's kind of like you're playing for your country, and the process is submit an application.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's kind of doesn't hit all this, what you're used to when you're growing up and you're trying out for all these teams and stuff like that. It just kind of it lacks a lot.
Take some of the romance out of it. Like
absolutely.
Like if you think about it, it's almost kind of like probably not intentional, but it's definitely like a little bit of gatekeeping, where you always hear those great stories about some random dude that shows up at a tryout for a pro team and makes it, and everyone's like, who the hell is this guy? He came out of nowhere. And that could happen with the roller community, but if you're not holding tryouts, you're not going to see that happen.
Right. Yeah, and then the money aspect behind it, like I feel like if you're representing your country and you're getting picked, like you shouldn't have to pay to play, honestly. Like I think you've earned the right to get it paid for you. I mean, or else what's the point of being selected as one of these top players? But by the way, you got to pay.
Yeah.
Like, well, I can't afford it now. Like some players can't afford it, and it sucks. They have all the talent in the world, and the reason they can't be on the team is because they can't afford it. Like, to me, it's like there's a lack of management in the sense where like there needs to be a designated person that just is always shopping for sponsorship for these type of programs. It has to be. Yeah. I mean, I can't believe how much money Hockey Day in Minnesota raised. I mean, those kids didn't have to pay for anything, and these kids were just average kids. They weren't like the top teams that got selected to come play. It was just teams that were in the area all got to play and experience this amazing outdoor rink. And, wow. It was all community funded. Like, why can't we do that? I don't understand. I really don't understand.
We have to be able to.
Well, and you look at it too, right? Your tryouts help fund what you're trying to do, right? You pay a fee to try out, and then whoever doesn't make it, obviously their money goes into a pot to pay for expenses. And by not having tryouts, you're missing that expense, which is probably a reason why people are having to pay to be on Team USA or whatever other team that they're playing for to represent, a larger community in roller hockey, right? Is because we're not raising the funds. And the funds is, hey, you're the player, pay us to play for your country that we chose you to play for.
I say
So,
we start a petition, take it to Congress, U.S. taxpayer dollars go to send Team USA roller to go play in Worlds.
I mean, they're printing money anyway.
Yeah, I'm going to write it up.
Hey, I'm all for it. I mean, we should be able to dictate where we want our money spent, and sports has always been something that's great for community. It's great for kids that are, trying to become something. It keeps them off the streets, and hockey does more than just, make you a great athlete. Like there's a lot of good people in hockey, and the morals you're taught through hockey, especially with team play. I mean, you see it back in the day when we used to have the enforcers in ice hockey. There was the guy that was hired to protect the best damn player on your team. Like if you touched, that player, you were not going to get away with it, and it was going to cost you. So that is something that, a lot of sports don't really have. And so, I was talking to some business owners, that played hockey. And one of the things that really struck me when they said it was like, I always hire athletes, especially hockey players, because of their work ethic. It translates over to their job. They're team players. They give it all they got, and they don't complain. And that's something they learn through hockey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's like,
hockey's tough.
Yeah. I mean, and that's like everything that like I base my kind of like day to day with is like being timely is because I learned it through hockey. Right. Self-control through hockey. Right. So it's like a lot of things that, kids listen to their parents to a point. Right. Because then it becomes a broken record. Right. But then, you get a coach. You want to play for that team. You're going to listen to that coach. Right.
Yeah.
You want to play on the first, second line. You listen to that coach. Right. So now if it's a good coach, he's teaching good morals, good lessons, and making you a better person and player at the same time. And so, I used to be the 10-year-old that would throw a fit and throw my stick, but then I got onto a travel team, and the coach was like, "You pull that crap, you're riding the bench or you're sitting fourth line." I was like, "Well, I want to score goals. I want to hit people." And so that was I was like, "Well, I better change my attitude." And it was also, you're at the rink an hour before the game, or you're benched the first period. Well, mom, we better get up early.
Yep, I agree.
I want to go back to bringing in sponsors to roller. Can we play a little game where we each throw out a company that should sponsor roller? I'll start.
Oh boy.
Just because Dan probably knows what it is, but it's just not every, but a lot of roller guys I know, they liked the little bit of a little upper decker, a little Zin probably. I think that they could probably do really well sponsoring roller.
Yeah.
I mean, you talk about that, and then you talk about any of these smell and salt companies.
I like to see more dentists sponsor hockey.
I mean, I got plenty of work done.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, dentist, what is the word I'm looking for? Physical therapist, right?
Yep.
I mean, anyone who's going to help you recover.
Yeah.
So,
by applying Biscuit Balm.
There we go.
There you go.
Got to tie it together.
Yep,
but
absolutely.
I think there's plenty of people out there that might not even realize the market that it could be. And if you really think about it, the way that the world works is if you don't put money into it, it's not going to work out because money's just energy. So if we can bring these people in and they can fund the teams, you can actually have solid teams that can stay together, that can afford to pay their players, anything like that. Just upgrade the game.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think like you and I had this conversation about, our pro divisions, you know, talking to some of these RHI players that I was talking to, I go, what do you think about the pro division today? They're like, they're not pros. They're not getting paid. They don't have contracts. They're not pros, and that's not me saying it. I've said it
Yeah.
in different conversations, but the fact of the reality is if you're not getting paid as a roller hockey player, you're not pro. And it's a hard pill to swallow, but it's a fact,
Yeah.
But I think that we do have some spectacular pro teams, and I just think like we really need to figure out how to get these businesses in their hometowns to stand behind their pro teams and help that rink develop a program from development, right, to learn to play, all the way to the pro level, so you don't leave your rink and it becomes kind of like that ice hockey tradition where it's like you go from there, you go to juniors, and then you go play minors, and then you go pro. We can create that same system, but it starts at our local rinks, trying to create that format that if a player comes in knowing that there's a pro team at the rink, he's most likely going to stay there and be loyal if he grows up through the whole program. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then you start creating a fan base. Now, like Justin and I were talking about, we're like, now we can make jerseys and memorabilia of these players that now all get a kickback. Like if somebody buys a jersey, cool, there's a percentage that goes back to that player or to the team or whatever, however you want to organize it. And then you have contingency contracts. If you get interviewed, you end up being on, no offsides, and you're wearing my logo, cool, that's an extra $100. Thank you. If you say my name and you end up being in a newspaper or whatever, cool, that's another $100. Right. So now there becomes all these incentives for these pro players to really be active on social media and reaching out to you guys like, hey, can I be on the podcast? Because now they know that the more they promote their sponsors, there's a kickback. And that comes with being a pro, right? Yeah. Like those are the benefits.
Well, and part of this whole sponsorship too, I think that the roller hockey culture has to change is like, and this is kind of like a, where I see change needing to happen is you have these sponsors coming in and sponsoring teams, right? But these players are so loyal to the companies they've been with that they're not wearing the sponsors' equipment or, whether it's wheels or gloves or, whatever it could be, or sticks, right? And so it's like, so then it's just a name on a team, right? It's like,
right.
There should be something there that especially if the company's giving the whole entire team free wheels, wear the wheels.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Well, see, and this is what it comes down to, like with contracts, right? Like if there was a manager or someone that's in charge of getting these sponsors, the team's going to get an email, be like, okay, this is what you're getting, but you need to do X, Y, and Z. Hold them accountable. Yeah. Because or else that sponsor, he's not coming back, right? And that's the whole point. Like you need to promote your sponsors. You need to plug them. If you're getting pulled off the rink and having asked you a question like, oh, take me through that goal, you got to figure out how to seamlessly plug your wheel sponsor that's how you got the goal, because these wheels didn't give out on me as I cut into the middle and went up top shelf. But no one's practicing this. There's not enough cameras at the rink, getting in front of the players to allow them to get used to it either. So that's kind of where like I come in and you come in, where when we go to these tournaments and we're there and we do these interviews, we're kind of prepping them, we're kind of giving them that practice. But at the same time, like I've been in awkward situations where the answer is like oh, it was okay. And I'm like, oh, that was it. Like there's nothing else you want to say. And but you got to kind of step back as a director and go, okay, he doesn't know any better.
Yeah.
Let me help him. Let's take two. And then you pull him aside. You don't embarrass him, but you pull him aside and you talk to him like, hey, let's talk about it like this. Kind of walk me through it. Don't give me a yes or no answer. And then don't forget to plug your sponsors at the end. And then you got to make them feel comfortable that if you mess up, don't worry about it. We can take another take, and it's my job to make you look good. And then they won't be so afraid to be on camera, because I've gone around and be like, hey, can I get an interview with one of your players? Nobody wants to get interviewed. They're scared. They're not used to it.
Oh, yeah. And that's the same thing with podcasts. Like we were reaching out to all these teams and we're like, hey, like we want to, we've been interviewing a bunch of guys in the role community, but we've been trying to get a hold of all these women athletes in the sport, but no one wants to be no one wants to be center image. And it blows my mind too, because it's like you talk to these people and have a conversation with them in person, and it's like hockey. But then it's like get them in front of a camera, and it's like, no, thank you.
Yeah, but that's the lack of education, correct? Like because there's no production value that they know of. Mm-hmm. If they knew, like, hey, this helps out your program and your sponsor's really going to love it, and we may be able to get more out of them next year by doing these things, then maybe they would be more reluctant to come on. But it's that lack of education and normality of having the broadcast side of it on roller hockey. Like, Narch does an amazing job of doing content and putting out content from their tournaments. Darren does an amazing job. State Wars has been doing it as well. Tours, they have their own videographer that's on staff that is co-owner, I think, now of Tours. So, but still, at the end of the day, they're just montage videos, right? Yeah. There's still a lack of education of like, well, who's the player? Where does he live? What's he like? That's how you create that fan base. Like, if I know maybe he likes to play pool, now I just made a connection with him. Like, oh, I like pool too, and then you start creating a fan base behind it. But I'm happy that Narch has now come back with their podcast, because Darren is pulling a lot of stories of, what comes out of Narch and these relationships and how the community kind of grows together. So yeah. I think that's a beautiful thing, right? When you can kind of do that, put all the pieces together and have the content to kind of, make it sense for the viewer. Because sometimes we'll sit here and say a name. Well, I don't know who that guy is, right? Yeah. So I'm automatically disconnected. I'm not listening anymore because there's no connection. And so it's very subliminal. It's to the viewer, the eyes, the hearing. The more things you put into it to help the viewer make a connection, the better. But as you know, Justin, putting up pictures and videos, it's a lot more work that goes into that, and sometimes it's kind of, it's too much to bring. But again, if we had more sponsorship money, we can hire more people to kind of do that for us. So it's like the cart before the horse sort of scenario. Like, we really can't do that without having the support first.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I think being able to express what the game is through the stories, like you're talking, I think that would help a lot. I think that would really bring out more of the personalities, and that's bringing it back to, then you can sell memorabilia, you can sell jerseys, you can sell hats, you can sell anything. But if people aren't really engaged, they're not going to feel it.
Right. And I do like what Ethan is doing. I think a lot more pro players should take a note of what he's doing. He took his status and built off of it before, because he's kind of on his way out in the sense that, he can only play pro so much longer before he's not going to be playing pro anymore. So before he gets out of that scenario, he started to invest in himself as a brand, as a pro player, being an instructor, and then using his friends and trying to help them to come in and be instructors and things like that. And Chavo does the same thing. You know what I mean? He did the same thing. Like, he's a pro player and he created his own little, side hustle in that rink. And it's been great. He's been scaling it, doing products and things like that. I think we need more of that, right?
Yeah.
I think those two guys are creating more new players than these rinks are on a smaller scale, because it's more affordable, right? And it's scheduled based. So I don't want to say that it's, and I hate to use this phrase, but it's almost like a daycare for hockey. Drop off your kid, go do your errands or whatever, and then come pick them up. Like, that's amazing. That's I wish they had that when I was growing up.
Yeah. And honestly, you don't have to feel bad saying that, because that's the exact words Zeton used. So don't worry, he knows.
Yeah, he's like, hey, yeah, drop your kids off. We'll play hockey for however long you need it. Oh, you need me to extra hour? Don't worry about it, right? And that's pretty much what Eton's built it on, is like a half a day summer camp. Sure, no problem. I could do 4 hours. Oh, you need to keep your kid for 6? Yeah, sure, no problem, right? So it's like he's encouraging people for a good price to use hockey as like a time to get, like, parents need their space from their children. They don't need to be with their children all the time. Then you get helicopter parents. We don't need them. Right. And so, Eton has done a great job with cornering a market that's like, oh, I can't find a babysitter, but my kid likes hockey. Let me drop my kid off. Let me go do some stuff, like you said, and I'll be back for him or her.
Yeah,
I think
go ahead, Justin.
Mine was so stupid. I was just gonna say, I think instead of helicopter parents for hockey, we should call them glass bangers.
Yeah, I've seen a few of those, man. Like it's terrifying to see some of these parents how they act at tournaments where they're trying to encourage their kids to play, and I'm just like, they're kids, man. They're not even like pros yet, and you're treating them like they need to score 8 goals and mercy the other team. Like that's not sportsmanship. If you're blowing out a team, you kind of dial it back and work on like your breakouts, and puck control, but that's where the coaches really, come in and step in. But man, I've seen some parents where they're banging on the door and banging on the glass. I mean, and they're pointing at their kid like, you need to skate, you need to score. And the kid's got like 4 goals.
Yeah.
I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And
like,
the kid's
that's a
looking at the
7-year-old.
parent like, and the little kid's looking around like, what am I doing wrong? I got 4 goals. Like, what's going on? Right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's gotten
People get crazy.
Oh, it's gotten crazier than what it's been, right? I mean, yeah, every now and then you have a parent get in an argument with another parent, whatever, right? But now it's like parents are walking out on the rink or ice, and just like, no, you're not gonna do that. It's like, get off the rink.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's bad for the sport. That's bad, for the kid to see. Like, you got to have some self-control and let the referees take care of it. Let the coaches take care of it, and don't do those things, because that puts a bad name to the sport when you do that. Like, oh, those roller hockey people, they're out of control. And, that team over there, wow, those parents are, wow, we don't want to play here anymore. So, yeah, it's hard to dial that down because, when you have a kid, I mean, I have a kid, so I know what it's like to see your kid like try to get injured or something, right? Like you just petrified of like, oh my God, are they hurt and blah, blah, blah. And your instant reaction is to protect them. And you go into that fight or flight mode, right? And you really are not thinking correctly. You're acting on emotion. And so you're really trying to attack and become mama bear or papa bear at that point.
Yeah.
But it's a natural reaction. I just think sometimes people need to understand, like, this is why we have officials, take a deep breath, say what you want, and then just let it go. And then after the game, when it's all resolved, then you can go talk to them in a calm manner when you're not in that fight or flight scenario.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's just making me think that, we're talking about getting more people into roller and how to do it. And it just popped in my head that things like what Eton's doing. And are you telling me that Chavo does a little clinic like what Eton does?
Well, he has his own little little dojo. I mean, I don't want to call it a dojo because that's Eton's thing, but he has his own little facility that he either practices at, and I've seen like on Instagram that he does have people come to his rink. But that's, I think we just need more of that, because when I look at the tournament series and all that, and I don't know too much, so I don't want to like bash anyone here, but like, how do you help other rinks that are not as set up as some of these other rinks where they have like 600 kids playing there? What about the ones that don't have that, and how do we help them to get to that level so that maybe Narch and Tours and State Wars can come to the rink? I mean, I would want to think that you would have these conversations with these rinks and be like, hey, well, let's figure out a program on how we can kind of create more players for your place. And then maybe the plan is in 3 to 5 years, we'll bring Narch there, or we'll bring Tours there, we'll bring State Wars there. And I think, the big three, they can collectively make that happen. If they all help collectively one rink and help, like maybe point the sponsors to them. They're like, hey, there's this rink here and we want to go there in the next 5 years. Let's get all the vendors together that we know and maybe help the pro shop carry the products, help them out so they have all the stuff that all other shops have, and then the kids can kind of now have access to all that stuff. And then one of the biggest, I think, important things is kind of like what Ben does here down in Corona. You know, they have a grant program for underprivileged kids that can't afford to play. I think that notebook playbook should get out to more rinks and figure out how to do that. I don't know the logistics side on the government programs that they may have for each state for sports and kids, but I think that's something that everyone needs to look into because there is money sitting there. A lot of people just don't know how to apply for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like it's interesting because the only time I've seen it done on what you're talking about is State Wars teaming up with the Hendersonville, Tennessee rinks. Is like one of the big attractions was that State Wars was going to throw Nasty Cup every year there, right?
Cool.
Which helped them like to make the decision to spend this $2-3 million to build this facility with 2 rinks and still mat and a nice big roofs with big fans for the humidity and stuff like that. And so like, but like you said, there's no collaboration. I mean, if anything, roller hockey, and especially since COVID, has brought like condensed itself to certain rinks. So the same rinks over and over again get the same like exposure per se, right? From these big tournaments. These tournaments used to go to single sheet rinks and hold qualifiers, but now they don't. Right. And it's like, okay, I get holding 2 sheeters. Sure, you'll get more teams. But there's got to be, there's only a few 1-sheeters that these big 3 will go to hold, to hold these qualifiers that are really just kind of like tune-ups now these days because they do nothing. They're still called qualifiers, but they're not, which is fine. I mean, I'm all for, cutting down on the traveling for teams to go qualify. And it was great back when roller hockey was big, right? In the 90s and 2000s, right? But then everything got more expensive. So like for a team that still wants to go to nationals, that, wants to, had to travel, like, oh, we were in, let's just say Pennsylvania, and now we got to travel to New York. We lost again. We still want to go to nationals. We got to go to, let's just say Massachusetts, right? And so now they still have to move all over the place. That's a cool idea, but I still don't mind going to these tournaments, these nationals ones, and their State Wars and stuff like that. And it's a gauntlet to get through the playoff bracket, right? It is harder. I think it's harder to get through and win these nationals with 60 teams than it is to try and qualify for a tournament. Because eventually, if you keep trying your luck, you're going to get in. Because you're going to find a rink where all these other teams have already qualified, so they're not traveling anymore. So eventually, you put yourself in a position where you may have been the fifth best team and you've lost to every single other person that's won. And now, hey, I'm at a tournament where there's a bunch of smaller teams that are just thrown together to see if they can get into a national tournament. And then you find your way in, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I personally, especially, jumped on a team last year for Tour Nationals, and 38 teams, top 20 make it. You have one playing game, then you go round of 16. You have to play through that bracket. That's like 4 to 6 games on a Sunday. It's like, that's the gauntlet. State Wars, 60 teams. That's the gauntlet. Like, that is, you are playing playoffs for hours, and it's survival of the fittest. And it's whoever, as I say, it's whoever takes care of their bodies the best are the ones that are going to win.
Biscuit Balm. I think that's we got you covered, so don't worry. Work your ass off. So I think it's a delicate dance for the promoters, to have competitive hockey, right? And I totally agree with you about being able to have like these 1-sheet regionals. The only problem I see is that if you're not playing some of these top teams that gonna be there, you're probably wasting your money sending your team that you don't even have enough talent to go. And let me tell you, as a parent, I know it's not fun watching your kid lose and lose and lose. and then have to drive home and then work on his psyche for the next 3 months to get him back to normality because he feels like he's just a loser, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot involved, and I think, you know, these promoters do a pretty damn good job on making the competition pretty fair, where there's not these blowouts, right? I think that's one of the most things that I respect about these tournaments. It's like, that's got to be grueling to really like keep that level where there's not blowouts, because if you get a team that's just running over everyone, you automatically start getting these complaints. Oh, they were sandbagging. They shouldn't be in gold, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? And this and that. They shouldn't be in bronze or whatever. And so, like, yeah, if you were to have these single sheet tournaments and then you think you have a good team, but then you come to realize when you come to the tournament, you don't. So I think having the multi-sheets and being able to bring all these teams is kind of important, so you really understand the level that you're trying to play at. And if you don't get exposed to that, then you'll never know. And that's why it's good to, like, hey, get your top players, travel to one of these regionals to see where you're at. And then it's up to the parents and coaches to decide, like, okay, we're probably like 2 years out to getting to that level where we're at. We need to develop some more players and better skills and this and that. But I truly believe that I think we can get to a point where I think the Narches, the Tours, and the State Wars can empower some of these rinks to run their own regionals under the name of Narch or Tours or State Wars, where they can run it. And now Darren doesn't have to go out there. You know what I mean? They don't have to be there to run it, and then they can still be doing their things. But at the same time, now these rinks are getting the ability to attach the name to Narch or State Wars or Tours and create the buzz that, okay, we're in it. We're looking to build a team, and boom, a new team was just born to send to the tournament. You know, but we got to figure that out. It's there's so many moving parts. Like, it's easy to be on the outside and talk about what needs to happen without being a part of the process. But I think, again, that's the other problem. We need, and I think this is where the solution is like this show, to have like a parent to come on and talk about their process and their thoughts. And then maybe the powers that be are listening to what these parents are saying and concerns. And then we've done our job. Cool.
Yeah.
Maybe they're going to do something about it, but it's got to happen continuously. Not just one parent needs to say it, a bunch of parents, you know, and I don't know what type of systems there are. If there's like a suggestion box where people can, you know, say their thoughts and things to these promoters, but maybe there needs to be like a meeting of the minds per se, with all these team owners or rinks that play in these divisions and these tournaments, and have a discussion with these promoters of like what they thought, what happened last year, where they maybe have some opinion on like can we do to change some of these things that we all kind of have the same consensus on, and things like that. But it's difficult. You can't please everyone, and a lot of people sometimes they just want to bitch because their kid got a bad call or whatever. You know what I mean? There's always that too. So it's a delicate balance, man. Like, and I just think the more communication, you know, we have within each other, I think that's the solution. There's no real easy answer to making it grow fast. It's just, you know, doing what we can, which is what you guys are doing. So thank you so much for doing the show. That's basically what I'm really getting down to.
Thank you. Same for you, man. I mean, with Hockey Night Insider and you guys getting in there and helping spread the word, it's doing the same thing, man.
Thank you. Yeah, it's not easy, but it's a lot of passion. That's why we do it. And especially in roller, Jake said it the best. It's like, in roller hockey, we know we have to do it ourselves. We can't depend, you know, on the powers that may be, the sponsors or whatever. It's like, we got to kind of set the example, and then hopefully it just catches wind, and then, you know, more people get interested and motivated to be a part of it.
Yeah. That's that. It comes down to, we need more unity in the sport. And
I agree.
The community is unified, but we have to pull in with everyone else, the higher ups and the big wigs, and we need more unity from them. And I think until that happens, when that happens, we will get a big shift in roller hockey, and I think then we'll see a lot. We'll see the next step.
Yeah, You know what we need is we need like a year-end festival where there's no tension, right? We're about playing and winning, where it's just like a celebration of hockey, where we all come together, everyone, vendors, teams, and it's just a celebration of hockey where we can have those discussions because we're not competing. So it's not like, oh, I can't talk to the competition. It's like we're here to talk about how we can make hockey better.
Yeah.
What resources do you have? What do and put them together collectively, and then we can kind of go in the right direction.
Yeah, it's a really good point and an awesome idea. Like this what was it called in Minnesota?
Hockey Day in Minnesota. Yeah, Hockey Day.
Yeah, we need like roller day.
And I think
yeah,
yeah.
Sweet.
Well,
Yeah.
you know, I think Heffy Justin was just recently there over this winter at Hockey Day, Minnesota, and
Yeah.
it looked cold, but it's Minnesota.
I've never felt cold like that in my life, man. I felt like my eyeballs were freezing. I swear. And then my batteries on like my camera were draining so quick because in cold weather the batteries don't last long, and that was a shock to me. I was like, oh my god, thank God I have a bunch of batteries, but I couldn't believe how fast it was wearing down. And I took my wife with me. She's like my assistant and helps me with my gear. No, she was in the tent the whole time, staying warm, smart.
Yeah. I mean, gosh, yeah. And that Hockey Day in Minnesota, that has to be like in the negatives because it looks like so much fun, and you're probably warm when you're skating out there. But when you're done skating, you have to be so cold.
Oh yeah, I mean, people's mustaches were frozen, your eyelids are frozen, you know, because hockey players drink water and stuff, right?
Yeah.
So you're spraying yourself, and next thing you know, you have like icicles all over your place, man. It's insane. But you know, like no one cares. Like you're so into what's going on. And I mean, if you look at the bleachers, they were packed. Like you want to talk about support and passion for the game. Like nobody was complaining. They were cheering like it was like 80 degrees outside. Like everything was great.
Heck
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
If you build something that is attractive enough to gain the community, I don't know what the hell I was saying. Attractive enough and appealing enough, people will show up.
Absolutely.
Right.
It's like I always told people, right? Like you can't force anyone, like, and I'll give an example like your show and my show. I can't force someone that views you to come be a fan of me. It's the experience, really. That's all it is. If they like the experience, then they'll adopt it. And they won't be biased if they're both good because it's feeding something that's different on your show that's mine. Now they're getting best of both worlds. So like with sponsors, like back in the day, there used to be like a tournament in Vegas and all the vendors would kind of, you know, get together at the end of the tournament and partying and hang out. And that's where they would talk and have that camaraderie about like, oh, cool, man, how did it go for you this year? And what are you doing next year? And, you know, what do you think we should do together? But it's kind of not that anymore. You know, COVID kind of has a big role that played in the divide and conquer of things and just in the community in general, not just hockey, but there's a lot of divide and conquer that's been going on, like with race and, you know, Black Lives Matter and all that stuff. Like lives matter, period, is what I always say. We're all humans. No one's more important than anyone else. But I just think that we really need to come back to that unity. Whatever we need. I don't know what the answer is, but we just need to stop
roller
fighting.
hockey.
Yeah, play more roller.
Unify under roller hockey.
Yeah.
Or it's, you know, you got the mud wrestling. Maybe it's just Biscuit Balm wrestling that's going to save the world. And you.
Oh my God,
yeah.
You're putting evil thoughts in my head.
Just giant pools of you know,
Biscuit
Balm, and just people are wrestling, throwing each other around in there.
Oh my God.
Sign me up.
That would get views. See, look at that.
Yeah.
That would get views.
So
I'm down.
You know, yeah, I mean, like I said, I mean, it goes in, right? The world is split. The roller hockey community is split to a point. You know, people don't want to go West Coast, people don't want to go East Coast, you know, and then you have people who only stay in the middle, and it's like people used to travel all over the place for these tournaments, and then something happened. And
COVID happened.
Well,
and then
COVID happened,
yes. In the economy, like I don't see how someone that has 2-3 kids that play hockey today, because you look at the equipment expense, $300 for a stick. Little Johnny's not getting one. You know what I mean? Like only Bobby is. You got to get the hand-me-down.
Yeah, 360 for a stick with holes in it.
You see what I mean? Like, it's just, so like, to me, it's like, the economy has a big part of it, you know? And I think when I started playing roller hockey, I noticed that it was affordable, like from playing ice hockey. Like for $100, you can get fully suited in roller hockey back in the day. Not anymore. You look at the skates, the wheels, and the sticks now too. It's like ice hockey.
Yeah.
It's like, what happened? How are we supposed to have an entry level to create more players if the equipment's getting out of hand? That's why I love Alkali. They have very inexpensive equipment. Yeah, it's not the top of the line and stuff, but you know what? These kids don't need that.
No.
You only need the top of the line stuff when you're at a pro level, or you have some weight on you that you need that stiffness in the boot or whatever. And you know, you understand flex, so you get that $300 stick that's your flex, you know. But I see these kids buying these $300 sticks, and then they cut them. The integrity of that flex and the purpose why you paid $300 is now worth probably nothing now.
Yeah.
You just ruined the technology.
Yeah.
So why would you buy them that stick? You know, and parents need to learn to say, you don't need it, Bobby. Here's an old 1990 aluminum stick with the blade at the end of it. Here. You know what I mean?
Heck yeah.
But
no,
these
exactly.
kids, they think that by using this equipment, it makes you better. And that's not true. Not at that level. Not at the level that you're at.
Well, and you talked about Alkali, right? And so like Alkali is pretty good where, you know, I think they're the ones, someone has adjustable, and it might even be Tor there might be multiple companies at this point, have the, you know, instead of getting the skate where you put your foot in and then you adjust the base and then you put Velcro straps over it. Now we have affordable, I think they're like $100 at most for beginner skates that look like roller skates now. And the toe caps expand in and out. And that's how you gauge their size. And as they grow, their foot grows, you keep bumping it out until, hey, you eventually, now you're growing out of the pair. Instead of you're in 3s, now you're in 4s, now you're in 5s, right? So it's like, I'm glad someone opened up the market for adjustable roller skates that are actually for roller.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we have to cater to that because like I said, if you have 3 kids, one of these kids is not going to play because we can't afford to buy. And then now what happens to little Bobby? Now he's depressed. Now he's, you know what I mean? Like it's a
Goes and plays volleyball
or whatever.
And we lose a
like,
roller guy.
It's just he's feeling excluded, and that's the problem. And the parents don't mean to. It's just, how do you tell a kid we can't afford it? They don't understand that.
Yeah.
They don't.
No.
You know what I mean? And they're not supposed to. Those are the things that as parents we want to protect them from and not have to worry. We want to let you to be able to explore any sport you want. And when the kid tells you, I want to do this, and you tell him I can't afford it, man, that crushes a kid. He doesn't know why you're saying no. He's just looking at it like, oh, okay. And then now he's going to be scared to try anything else after that.
Yeah.
So thank goodness for Alkali. I love those programs. I think rinks need to create a program with these companies, these vendors, where like for $200 you can get a complete outfit to start playing. You know.
Yeah.
It just needs to happen. I think in order to make more pie, as we say.
Yeah.
Increase the pie.
You know, and I think instead of obviously these companies are not going to stop making high-end sticks because they're making money off of it, ridiculous amount of money. But I also just think something has to shift to be like, there are just as good sticks for $150, half the price, than this $360 stick that you want. Like there are $150 sticks that are the same weight. They're just not Bauer, CCM, Warrior. It's like, go to these other companies, Epic, Champion, right? All Black, right? I mean, there are companies out there for affordable hockey sticks, but the kids, right? But that's not Bauer. Who cares? It doesn't matter. They do the same thing.
It comes back to propaganda, like, right? The reason why these kids go for that is because CCM, Bauer, and all these big manufacturers, they're spending millions of dollars on advertisement. to the point where they brainwash your kid and it doesn't know any better, but it has to have that stick. These smaller companies, they can't advertise like that. So a lot of them don't know. They don't know. They're not educated to even know that that company even exists. You know, luckily, there is such a thing as social media.
Yeah.
But then again, now it's the lack of effort. Like, you need to put somebody on it every day, pushing it and creating content. And as you guys know, it's not easy to create content, at least good, valuable content.
Yeah.
It's not easy. You can put trash together and it stays as trash. But if you want to make an educated video that will really sell the product to where they're going to want it, you have to put some thought into it, and you have to put a little money behind it to create that visual that's going to connect with the viewer.
Agreed. And I'm going to shout these guys out because we're talking about Alkali. If people think Alkali is not good enough for you, it was good enough for the Division I college champions GCU.
That's right. Aiden.
and on top of that, Aiden and the rest of his team, they're putting together awesome little adverts for their sponsors. And I love seeing that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm talking about. Like, Aiden has really been, you know, leading by example.
Yeah.
And I wish more pro players would do exactly what Aiden does. Take it upon yourself to create a little video. It doesn't cost you anything. The phone shoots in 4K. Everyone knows how to use social media. Have a friend film you or do it yourself. Just put some effort into it. That's all we're asking. Don't sit there anymore and act like all you need to do is wear the stuff and play, right?
Yeah.
Like, the only people that get to do that are the ones that are actually winning the championship. But the rest of you better be doing something, because you're not promoted as the champ and all that, so you don't have all the accolades that come along with that. So how are you going to really, you know, come across that you really are grateful and want more sponsorship? You have to put the effort in. It's there.
Yeah.
That's why, like, I think I was talking to Justin too about this. It's like, these kids that are growing up with social media have more value than a pro player would, because they know how to promote. And it's second nature to them. They're not doing it to get paid or whatever. They're doing it because it's part of their lifestyle. They were born into it. So these kids, I can't wait till these kids grow up and be pros, because they're already going to be doing it. And that's going to really grow the market.
Yeah.
Like, when these kids get to pro, these vendors are going to get so much marketing out of it that it's going to grow it. You know, we just got to wait. We got to be a little patient.
That's a really good point. Really interesting that, I guess, you know, the last heyday of roller was, you know, 90s and early 2000s. So those, you know, I'm part of that generation where I didn't have social media. It wasn't an option. If you wanted to have a commercial for something, you had to find somebody to help you do it, and it was expensive and took a long time. Now, like you said, it's 5 minutes to shoot a video and upload it.
Yeah, that's exactly what Aiden did. That those little, you know, blurbs that he's doing, all on an iPhone. Him and his buddies at the rink, they did it probably like in 20 minutes. You know, they probably talked about it and planned it out, but then did it. That's it.
Yeah.
And you're doing it while you're having fun playing hockey. Like, how cool is that?
Yeah, exactly. And for the pros, and, you know, it's not like we're trying to shame them for not doing it, maybe a little bit, but you know, if you still love the game, you know, don't only let it serve you, serve it a little bit.
No, that's exactly right. It's not what the game can do for you. It's what you can do for the game. Because, you know, Gismondi said it the best. Like, he has a write-up where he says that, you know, hockey has given him so much that he doesn't ever think he's going to be able to repay the sport back for what it's done for him. You know what I mean? And so not a lot of people have that perspective where you look, if you really look, like, if you've played hockey from when you were a kid till now, and you really look at how hockey has affected you, it's probably been the best thing that's ever happened to you, because of the relationships that were built throughout that sport, that still today, you rely on those people. You have gotten jobs from those people. And it's like, it's a fabric of your existence.
Amen.
Yeah.
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 You know, honestly, that might be a good spot to stop, because that was very wise.
Couldn't have said it any better.
Yeah. Well, Steven, thank you
Excellent,
so
boys.
much, man. We really appreciate this. Great conversation. Just so everybody knows, all the links for Biscuit Balm, R&R Productions, Hockey Night Insider in the description below. Give everybody a check out. Check out what they got going on. And make sure when's your next episode of Hockey Night Insider?
Well, I'm glad you asked because it's actually the premiere just happened today at 3. So while we were on, it just aired. So the new episode is out now, and I am going to give a teaser to the next one. There has been a Pro Beach roller hockey documentary that has been made about the Pro Beach Hockey League that was out back in the day. The next episode that I have, I'm going to have the producer of that documentary on there, and some of the pro players that played in it. So to promote roller hockey. So please tune in to that. You know, that's something we all kind of got to get behind of and try to emulate. Like, we really need to learn what happened. You know, unfortunately, Dennis Murphy, you know, God rest his soul, he was the one that kind of made the RHI happen. And it was people like him that we need to get roller hockey back to where we were. And one of the guys that knew Dennis Murphy very closely is a guy named Jeffrey Booma. And he's the one that's really been helping me with Hockey Night Insider and broadcasting some of these games and giving the purse to the EDL that's going on out there. So we're still trying to figure out how to bring pro RHI roller hockey back. I think, like you guys are saying, there's a lot of potential. We just all need to kind of get unified and get the right people in place. But we still need to lead by example. We still have a lot to fix in the roller hockey world before we can be taken serious at that level.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, guys. Can't wait till we do it again. And I will definitely want to extend that I want to bring you guys on my show when we can. And we can kind of, you know, bring you guys into our audience and vice versa, because this is what it's about. Like, right, as we say, connecting the dots. Yeah. Like, I want to introduce you guys to the community that I have and be like, hey, support these guys too. They're covering the same topic, just in different perspectives, and we can't have enough of it. So I applaud you guys. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you. And so if you're watching or listening, depending on what platform you're listening to it on, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. If you're playing roller hockey and you're forechecking, don't let up because there's no offsides. I'm Dan Dean.
I'm Justin Wood.
Steve.
I'm Steven Reyes.
Yep. Thanks for joining us, my man. Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks, peace out.
Yeah.
Peace.
No offside.